strongest person in the world, Goldberg. I'm telling you, Goldberg had me against the wall. This is down in Tampa at this event we're doing in Tampa. Had picked me up with one hand. I'm 260 pounds. Had me against the wall like this right here. And it was like, I was like, Bill, if you don't let me down, I'm going to kiss you right in the mouth. He dropped me.
So how much of it is staged?
It's all staged. But when you got people like Goldberg, who can't really hold back that physicality and that strength, that mental. I mean, he's crazy.
That's a big man,
dude. When he speared those guys in the ring, when that was his finishing move, it was like run across and you just spear somebody up, in the turnbuckle. Mm-hmm. That was real. You can't hold that back. But when you got somebody like Dusty, who was all nothing but show and grace and just funny, and he hit with that atomic elbow. That was just. Fun to show, Bob. Yeah, but he was one of the most sweetest guys on the planet. He was great. But then you got people like, Chris Benoit, who killed his whole family because of steroids. You wrestle him, and he gets you in the corner, and he's supposed to chop you one time, and like that popping noise.
Yeah.
And he tears the skin off of you. Mm-hmm. That's when you hit him back.
Yeah.
Those guys like that, they can't stay that big, so they're all roided out. But Hogan was easy. Even the Big Show, 7'1", 450 pounds. I had to slam him a couple times.
Willie Nelson.
Hi.
I heard something. Now we got Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson.
Yeah, that'd be a great duet.
Who you think
smokes more?
That's right.
Hi. Let me tell you. Hold on. 1998, Willie Nelson family picnic, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Knock on the door. Chad, Willie would like to see you. I said, well, listen, tell Mr. Nelson that I will gladly meet him, but I can't do that till after my show because I had heard already that he got Little Texas so stoned before their show yesterday, they couldn't even do their show. I don't smoke. I'll talk to him after the show. Tell him thank you very much.
Did he leave?
No. Look, I went over afterwards. I said, nice to meet you, Mr. Nelson, yada, yada, yada. I'm telling you right now, there's a table about this big and it has two chairs in or three chairs or whatever. Biggest bowl of bud I ever seen in my life. You walk in there and you come out, not even smoke it with a contact high.
Let's talk about communication. Let's talk about the love. Let's talk about communication. Oh, let's talk about the love. Let's talk about communication. Let's talk about the love. Let's talk about communication. Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, William Robinson, coming at you live tonight from the studios of TLC, Talk, Love, and Communication. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Chad Brock. He's a country singer, a WCW wrestler, a former Forest High School inside linebacker. This is a jack of all trades, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to give us some wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and tell us about this journey that he's been on to make him the man that he is today, ladies and gentlemen. And without further ado, we're going to give this young man a special round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, how's it going there, Mr. Brock?
Oh, I'm doing good over the years, yeah.
You had a nice ride over, man?
I did. I had to pick up Coach Simmons and bring him over with me. But other than that, it was a pretty good ride.
Okay. Hey, Coach Simmons, that's a man, I'm quite sure. Explain to my audience what Jim Simmons means to you, sir.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. There's my father passed away in 2020. He was 84. And throughout my life, there's been a couple of guys that I have looked toward just about everything I do because of the discipline that I have with Coach Simmons in Forest High School football kind of helped me throughout everything I ever do in life. I mean, he kind of sets you up. I mean, you have your father there. My father was a wonderful human being. Every football game, every baseball game. So I had a great father, but when you have a figure like Coach Simmons who puts that discipline in you, and you can carry it. And so now I'll talk to him every once in a while going, Coach, what do you think about this? And he'll tell me real quick.
Yeah, he's always been a man to tell you the truth and let you know he don't give nobody nothing they don't deserve.
That's true. No, he's called it. I had such respect for him in the program over the years and watched him. all I ever wanted to do was play football at Forest. I mean, that was it. I sang in, church and early, and I sang in middle school and some things. And then high school, I forget about it. Quit playing baseball. It went everything. Everything was Forest High School football.
So was there a certain player that you looked up to?
Oh man, Scott Brantley. It's like I'd get nervous. He was my celebrity guy. He was a celebrity here in this town, and watching him play was the most. I mean, my father took me to the '74 state championship and the '75, so I went to both championship games and watched him play. And he was a man among boys playing ball, And I'll tell you a funny story. When Scott, I don't know if you know this or not, but Scott only played 3 years and 3 games at Florida. And he's only 7 tackles behind Larry Little for the leading tackler at University of Florida. Only played 3 years, 3 games, 7 tackles. So that tells you anything about how good Scott Brantley was.
Yeah. That was a little bit before my time. I don't quite remember him.
I watched him they took a reverse. You might remember this, Hollywood Chaminade. They had a track around the field. There was a little wingback, did a reverse. Scott read that reverse, hit him so hard, knocked him over into the fence, across the track, and they took him off on a stretcher. That was how hard Brantley would hit somebody. It was crazy.
So how did it go from football to singer?
Well, being a singer, it's kind of something you do. My grandfather was a pastor, and so it was a church when you're 6 years old and you're singing Amazing Grace. But it got to where that I got away from it because of sports. But then all of a sudden at Fort King, middle school here in Ocala, I was chosen as the only 7th grader in the whole state of Florida to sing with the honor choir. And I didn't even think about that. Then I just stopped singing because of football again. Then at church I'd do some things. But then my senior year, after football was over with, I had a wonderful school teacher by the name of Florine Gabriel Reese, who was just the sweetest woman on the planet. And she knew I sang, and she asked me to come sing with them. And next thing you know, I'm doing everything. I'm doing all, you name it, I'm doing it at Forest High School. Every time we get together, I was singing something. And then I had a little band for years here in Ocala, played around, but then Florine called me one day, and we're talking about a very large, beautiful woman who ended up, last time I saw her, she weighed 100 pounds. She had cancer, and she called me to her house, and she said, you need to, there's something I want to talk to you about. And we talked about life, and we talked for 3 hours. And she said, listen, I want you to sing at my funeral. And I was like, whoa, what do you do, to say something like that? So I told her I would, and I even called up my old piano player at Forest High School, Mitzi. And I sang this song called Make Us One. And it's because I always thought that Miss Reese didn't care what color you were. She cared about your character, And so, and here I was. And that's just why I always say, if I have a funeral, when I do have a funeral, I want a black funeral. I'm serious, because y'all celebrate. We go to funerals sometimes, we just sit there and cry. But, man, the black church and the black celebration is like, it's wonderful. And that's what I saw. I had 12 pastors up there, and everybody was talking. Everybody was, just remembering how wonderful she was as a person.
You say your grandfather was a pastor.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So did that, that has a big part in your faith, sir?
You know what? Back then, no, I can say it was a little bit different. My faith is a lot stronger than it ever has been right now. And I have to say this, because when I watched my grandfather in that whole genre, that whole group of people back there, because he wasn't a very nice man, and he was hellfire and brimstone. It was pulpit pounding. If you didn't do this, do this, do this. It was my grandmother never wore a pair of pants in her life, and it was a kind of doctrine that I didn't like. To me, it was not what I thought God was going to do things. Because He was a loving God. He's not pound the pulpit and say you're going to go to hell. And everything like this. But
he was an Old Testament.
He was
man.
oh boy, was he ever. But it was just, my mother kind of had a phobia for a while, growing up in that kind of an atmosphere. So, but church especially now for me, especially at this age. There's a song that I really enjoy that Brooks and Dunn sang, and it's one of the most amazing songs. And it talks about he's a little bit older now. He's starting to look at those those pages written in red, you know, and talk about the New Testament. That's some of the things that I'm really, you know, looking at now, because if you live in this world right now, things are a little bit different.
You know, did you write your own song, sir?
I did. My biggest hit was a song called Yes, and it was written in 45 minutes. It was one of those magical songs that just, I was writing with two of the best writers in Nashville, and I had the idea. I walked in, and the other guy, Jim Collins, he wrote, had so many #1 records, but I was his first #1, I will say that. Mm-hmm. But we walked in, I had this idea, and next thing you know, we're outside the door, and we had it down. And my band was leaving that night to go to Orange County, California on the bus. And I was just going to fly. I didn't want to drive out there. But I called my road manager, said, bring your stuff, bring all the acoustic stuff. We're going to work this song up. And that Friday night, we played Orange County, California. I had to play it 3 times that night. People lost their mind. Second time, they were singing it. And I came back with a cassette back then. And I walked into the Warner Brothers office, and I threw it at his desk, and I said, you want a hit record? There it is.
And, you know, it's funny that you say that, because, you know, I used to do a little music myself. Yeah. You know, not quite to your standard, but
all music's good standard.
The songs, I call it, when I make a good song, I say, man, I made me a country.
Yeah.
Meaning the best in the country. That means no matter who you are, where you go, they're gonna love this song.
Absolutely.
And it's something, you know it within your bones. You know that this is it.
Yeah.
You know, every song you make, you enjoy. Right. But you know when it's that one.
You do.
And it's funny that you say that, because upon preparing myself for this interview, I was saying, I'm going to look up Chad Brock, and I'm going to see what's going on. And Yes stood out to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Yes is a very good song.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Walk me through the lyrics. And, you know, because music is inspiring. Music, you know, the best songs are what's going on in your life at the time, a lot of time.
Well, the whole song is a true story. She moved into my old apartment. That's how we got this whole thing started. She called and said that I had mail waiting there for me, which was true. She called me she moved into an apartment I just moved out of. I stayed in the same complex. I moved into a 2-bedroom that, moved up. And so she couldn't get in touch with me. She didn't have my phone number, so she called me from the gate. Said, hey, I've got some of your mail. You want to come down and pick it up? And I said, yeah, I'll be right down. So I went, this is funny. I walked down there to pick it up, and she opened the door, and she was gorgeous. And I said, oh, I'll be right back. So I went home and brushed my teeth. Because it was 11 o'clock at night.
He couldn't comb his hair.
No, I didn't have any hair. He just I'm going to get him one day. Anyway, so I went down there. We talked all night and ended up dating and ended up getting married to her. It didn't last very long, but we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah. I mean, you know, maybe you met her for the reason to get what you got out of it.
Song, I know.
You got that song out of it, so
I did, and I wrote it before I was married because she didn't get any of it.
Let me ask a question on this. Who makes the most money on a #1 hit, the writer or the singer? How does that work?
Well, it's the writers. Well, that all depends. Okay, as a writer of the song, I made great money. I'm still getting paid I get a check every month. It's called sound exchange money now, where it's a digital royalty kind of a deal. Whether you can play it on YouTube or they play it, on Spotify and places like that. YouTube, Apple songs or things of that nature. So I get that, and plus I get BMI, ASCAP, that kind of money, which is really, really radio money. Every time a song is played on the radio, depending on the size of the market station, it's how much money they have to pay. So you have a #1 station, big station in New York City, they're going to pay more per song than a station here in Ocala would pay. So that's how it works. And if you go into a gold rotation, like Yes is right now, then it gets a little bit more money. Maybe it's 3 or 4 cents more, but it all adds up. I mean, if the song was written by 3 people, me, myself, and me, Jim Collins, Stephanie Smith, and then they had 3 publishers, so they all got their share. So you had to split it 6 ways. I wish I had just this one song and I wrote it myself and published it myself. It made about $2.5 million. One song did, and that's in country music. But some of these pop songs, they're going. I mean, it's incredible how much money they make. I mean, but nowadays, I'll give you for instance, everybody knows the Jelly Rolls of the world now, and Post Malone. Mm-hmm. Post Malone's having a very good country thing coming out. He's actually pretty good. But there's 116 writers on his new record.
Wow.
Okay, let me tell you why. Everybody wants a piece. Okay, you write the song, Coach Simmons. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm going to go, Coach, I'll take this song, but I want a piece of that song. They'll give up 25% of the song just to get, and that's the way it's going. These deals these kids are making are almost like deals with the devil. Mm-hmm. They get half their stuff no matter what. And you wonder why the ticket prices are so high. Because you're paying $400 for a ticket to see somebody, and you go, I can't afford that, but that's how much they have to charge to make a living, because half that money goes back to the record label.
Because the artist is only getting $50 of the $400.
You take away, I'll give you, for instance, if I had a big year, like one of my biggest years, but back then was, $2.5, $3 million year. Okay. But if I made 23% of that after paying all my expenses, I was doing great. So it's a huge expense when you come down to it. And I got 100% of my, except for management fees, which was 15 and some booking. So you take off 25% of that off the top, then you pay your guys, your bus, your fuel, your this, your that. So if you come out making 23%, you're doing good.
And that's a great question, because a lot of time the industry side, people look at it only as the man that's on stage. Mm-mm. But there's a lot that's go behind. There's a lot of entertainers that's famous that's not as wealthy as you think they are.
Oh, no, absolutely. If you don't, I don't know if you remember Hee Haw. Remember Hee Haw growing up? Buck Owens, who was huge on Hee Haw, he owned two big radio stations, one in Phoenix, Arizona, and one out in Bakersfield, Colorado. Mm-hmm. So I remember going on my first radio tour where they take you around and introduce you to people. And he was there. And he owned it. He was upstairs. And so I went upstairs and sat down with him. And we talked for 2.5 hours. And he kept reiterating to me, save your money, save your money, save your money, because he'd be gone tomorrow. And there's a lot of artists out there who have done relatively well, but don't have a pot to pee in, because they either squandered their money or they have, I've been through a couple of lives myself, but luckily I haven't had to fork out that kind of stuff, but
I'm surprised.
It's the bald head, man.
Yeah, the bald head. But it's like one of those kind of situations where just remember, and a lot of people don't get, I'm getting a really good opportunity, second opportunity here, because I'm going back and I'm working on a new record right now. And, when I was talking earlier about those 116 writers per, that Post Malone record, mm-hmm. that leaves a lot of great writers over here going, well, what about my songs? And I'm going, well, give them to me. Yeah. And I've got some of the best. I've got better songs now than I ever had on my Warner Brothers albums. I'm not kidding you. Some of the strongest material, except for the Yes song, which we just redid. We're going to redo it because I want to own the masters. You know about masters.
Yes, sir.
So when you have your own masters, Coach, for instance, if Yes right now is on Warner Brothers, mm-hmm. okay, they could have taken that song and put it in every Hallmark movie on the planet and made money. But they didn't do it. So now I'm recutting it. We're going to put it out overseas, in places like that it was never a hit at or never even put out in. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have the masters, and now I can put it in these movies and places like this and make the money off of it. So it's just like what Taylor Swift did with all her masters with that $200 million that she was going to lose. She recut every song she had. So now she owns the masters too.
And a lot of entertainers, Coach, fight very hard for their masters, because they realize the mistake they make when they're young, mm-hmm. coming into this situation. And once they learn to how the game is played, so to speak, everybody wants their masters. And a lot of people don't want to give that up.
I can understand that.
I mean, you look at the catalogs out there that are, the Michael Jackson catalog went for, I don't know how much money the Michael Jackson catalog went for, or the Beatles catalog were $2 billion or something.
I think Michael Jackson actually bought
it. He bought it. Yeah, he bought it. Yeah, for something stupid.
And see, Sony wouldn't allow Michael Jackson to have his own master, so he went and brought Sony.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's how important it is.
But he had one of those 50% deals, though. Michael Jackson, he had they made 50, he made 50, and they didn't take any of his anything else.
I bet his daddy did.
Of course.
So who are some of the top celebrities you have the honor to working with, sir, being around?
Man, everybody. To be honest with you, if you want to go back years and years and years, I've been in the same room as Jerry Reed, all these guys that were so cool back in those old Burt Reynolds movies,
yeah.
and all those people like that. Charlie Pride, man, he was one of the coolest guys. Mel Tillis actually lived here in Ocala for a long time. One of the funniest human beings on the planet I've ever been around. And then you got guys like Vince Gill. You got Garth. I was at a Warner Brothers. This is hilarious. I'm at a Warner Brothers Music Awards in Las Vegas. It's now called the Billboard Music Awards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm standing in line to get my credentials and everything, and all of a sudden I get a tap on the shoulder. I turn around, it's Garth Brooks. He goes, "Hey, Chad, I'm Garth Brooks." I'm going like, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "Man," he goes, "He knew every song I've ever done. He knew all about me. He knew Ordinary Life was my first hit. He knew it was going up the chart." And we talked for 15 minutes waiting in line. I'm going like, no wonder this guy's so huge. He knows there. I mean, he just remembers people, and he's nice to people and the whole 9 yards. And then I go inside to find out where my seat is. And they put pictures for where you're going to sit next to. And I'm looking at the guy picture next to me, and I hold it up and going, "You got to be kidding me." Did you ever watch the Brady Bunch?
Yes.
It was Greg Brady.
What?
Yeah. It was Barry Williams from the Brady Bunch. Greg Brady.
So, I mean, how did you feel that the fact that Garth Brooks, this is Garth Brooks?
Well, you know what?
I
heard stories leading up, to that ever meeting Garth, because he was always gone or back in Oklahoma or in his place in Gallatin, Tennessee. So I never really saw him around town. But I always knew he had that knack for, there's only certain people I think that have that knack for just getting so involved and making sure you know everybody's name and remember everybody. It's a gift. And I truly believe he had a gift for doing that. And that's why he was he came across like that all the time. He's just a good
He's
dude.
a great entertainer.
He's a great entertainer, yeah.
Well, how did you feel, for this man to know your songs?
Oh, I felt like I was like, wow.
I mean, to you, he's another Brantley.
Oh, absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you talking about me, little
Yeah.
Chad?
Yeah, no, it was a very humbling feeling, because when you get
Even knew his nickname.
No, Vince Gill knows my nickname. Yeah, no, but it was a very humbling experience, because especially when you got guys that don't know who you are or know who you are, but you don't know they know that because they listen to your music and they recognize you from watching CMT or doing something like that or coming across the Chad Rock on the radio or something like that, and then they, you don't never have met them, but they know who you are. So it's just like a mutual respect in country music. Everybody gets together. We don't see each other much during the year. I mean, every time we're at CMA Fest or we're doing this radio stuff, we might run into each other. But it's a rarity to run into somebody and be able to hang for any length of time because we're all going in different directions, traveling so much and playing shows. But it's fun when we do. I mean, we used to set up on Keith Urban's front yard on a Sunday in the early 90s and play for hours in the front yard. That's what we would do. I mean, this is before everything, started happening for everybody, but those are the kind of things that I can go back and remember going, man, this is really cool stuff.
He must be a real small guy.
He is a little guy. Yeah. Because Nicole, his wife,
She towers over
she
him.
towers over. He's like 5'7", 5'8", and she's 5'10", but he's so nice. It's like one thing about I've known, there's not too many jerks in country music. There's not too many egos. You've got some egos, but then again, they'll do anything for you. I always heard stories about Hank Williams Jr., who's crazy. But man, you ask Hank to do anything for you, be on a record with you, absolutely. You send it to me, Hoss.
So let me ask you something. So, right now you're currently working on a new album, correct? How often do you listen to other artists? Because, most of the time, even after you do a song, you're going to listen to it, to critique it.
Oh, yeah.
To make it the best you can. So how often do you actually get an opportunity to listen to other artists?
All the time. I'm a big fan of great singers. Now, I listen to everything, though. I listen to everything. I'm talking soul, Motown, rock, you name it. I listen to it if it's good. I mean, it has to be good.
Is there certain type of instruments? In country singing, what's the name of that? It's a certain instrument.
Steel guitar or fiddle? Which one?
I think it's the fiddle. Being most songs, and it's just when you hear that instrument.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's nowadays it's like it's an art that is kind of fading a little bit. You don't find too many fiddle players on a lot of stuff in country music anymore. Now steel players and we're starting to, like I redid Yes on this new record. We wanted to do a little bit different version of it. We did a 90s version back then, and when I'll explain it the way I did it. Okay, it's like in those songs you have a push. You know what a push is on a song. She said yes, and that's a push. Okay, we're doing it. We cut it more where it's kind of new sounding now. Took out the fiddle and put in banjo behind it. Let it roll in behind it. You know, little B3 organ in it. You know, so kind of a hipped up newer version, but still country. And bumped it up a couple notches.
You know, I don't heard a couple songs lately that they classify as country, and I'm like,
yeah.
You know, when I think of country, I'm thinking of Willie Nelson.
Oh yeah,
Hank. You know, Golf. You know.
Oh, and now trust me, I love that. I grew up listening to that stuff. I mean, we all did. It was nothing but Merle Haggard, and I still do a lot of Merle Haggard.
I got a name for you. I used to work with this right out of high school. I used to work with this guy, and so I'm working with this white guy. And one day we would play 102 Jam, you know, for me. And then one day we would play K Country. Mm-hmm. You know who Tracy Lawrence is? Oh,
TL's one of my best buds, man.
Man, this man got one of the best country songs on the face of this earth, man. Do you know which one I'm referring to?
Alibis?
No.
Which one?
It's I Never Saw You Dance With Your Feet Off the Ground. Yeah. And you know, at first, you know, you compromise it. You know, one day we listen to K Country, we listen to 102 Jam, and we worked at night, and I only used to hear this song, but I started liking the song. So one day I go home, I'm sleep. You know how you work at night? It's like you never get enough, so you working 12 hours. So I'm sleeping, and I'm laying in my bed, and the song is on television. So I'm thinking, I don't fall asleep at work. You know what I mean? So I jump up out my sleep, you know, in this video, and then when you see the video, okay, that's another thing. The right video can catapult a song.
It can. I tell you who did that was Jelly Roll. You know, he had Save Me. That song Save Me. Mm-hmm. And it was out a year before it even hit radio. You know, that's how they do things. It's kind of strange. They do it really backwards now. They want you to have a certain amount of people watching you on Instagram or a certain amount of people watching you on this or that before they'll even do the work to even put you in the label. And that is the exact opposite of what we had.
Right.
We worked our butts off.
It was very hard to make it.
You know, but nowadays it's like, and because we're gonna redo Yes in another way too. I'm gonna do it as a duet, which all I have to do is just change some lyrics on the back side of the second verse. Some he's and she's and stuff like that. That's all I have to do. But I don't want to sing it with a 20-year-old because I'm 61. It would sound kind of pervy. You know, I want to sing it with somebody that's closer.
No, it doesn't. It just sounds like a guy with high expectations.
Well, so we're trying to find somebody maybe mid-30s. He would only say that, wouldn't he? That's thank you, Coach Simmons. Yeah. No, but you know, she has like 9 or 10 million followers. So I'll if she's an unknown, I don't care.
And see, you know, one thing I've learned, I used to tell my grandmother, well, Grandma, you're going to be living in these days. You got to start doing this and that. And she said, what do you mean? These is my days. Basically, she's still here. So with that being said, you know, kind of like what Coach was saying, you know, like you say, she's 25, 30.
Yeah.
She's a little more in tune with, you know, who's doing this Instagram and this Facebook and this TikTok and this Apple, you know, so you have to, if she's willing to.
I know. I just can't get over the fact that she's younger than my daughter.
But you're only singing.
I know that, but it's still to me in my mind.
High expectations.
High expectations, man. You know, so, you know, I noticed you have some videos to go along with your songs. How do you decide, who decides that? Do you come up with the idea or you have people that kind of put the plan in motion?
Well, the Yes video was done in California because the girl who was set up all the videos. Her boyfriend was out working for Warner Brothers in L.A. and she wanted to go see him. So that had to cost me a lot of money to go do that. Yeah. And we could have done that very easily in Nashville for about 1/4 of the budget. But she wanted to go out to L.A.
So so now you reside in Nashville.
Oh no, I live here. I moved back home.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I if you saw Nashville now, you would go, holy smokes! It's the traffic of Atlanta, because it's actually more congested than Atlanta, and it's 24/7. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You go downtown at night, any night of the week,
Like New York,
it is. It never stops. So I got kind of tired of living, and it's really expensive. The real estate is really expensive there. Even if you move out toward Murfreesboro, which is 35 miles from there. So there's places you can find, but I just don't want to live there. I can do everything. I can fly. I can do fly dates now. My band can go on the bus, and I'll just go fly and meet them.
So I'm gonna call out a couple names.
Okay.
And you just say whatever's on your mind.
Okay.
Now we got Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson.
Yeah, that'd be a great duet.
Who you think?
Smokes more?
That's right.
Willie
got him
I
on the
guarantee you.
I think Snoop said something one time when he was with Willie. He said he couldn't do nothing with
No,
Willie.
you can't. No. There's a Toby Keith wrote a song called "I'll Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again."
He wrote a song called
He wrote
that?
a song called that. He wrote a song called it. And let me tell you about Toby real quick. And speaking of Toby, there's a show he went to see in Vegas. Really great artist, Merle Haggard, one of my favorite guys on the planet. I mean, just unbelievable guy. And Merle was sick that day, really bad. And he was doing the show at one of the big hotels and everything. And so Toby was backstage and everything. And he went out there, and Merle went out and played one song and just told folks he just couldn't do it. He walked over to Toby. He goes, Toby, he goes, can you help me? He goes, how many of my songs do you know? He goes, all of them. So Toby Keith walks out on that stage, played that show, and played exactly every song that not Willie Nelson, but every Merle Haggard song that Merle's going to play that night for those folks. That's how good of a guy Toby Keith was.
Wow.
Yeah.
He seemed to be a great guy.
Yeah.
I only have 2 country discs, and my red truck, hunting truck's yours, and then because the radio doesn't work, and
Thanks, Coach.
and the white one I got one of Toby's. Yeah.
Toby passed away this early this year with stomach cancer.
My condolences.
Yeah.
He sang that song, "Don't Let the Old Man In." That's one of the greatest songs. As you get older, you understand it. You know, if the disease doesn't strike you down.
You know what do you know the story behind him writing that song? Okay. He's working on a film with Clint Eastwood. And he working on the music for Clint, and I actually got a chance to do the same thing back in 2000 with Clint. But and so he asked Clint, he was out there with him on the set, and he was how do you keep doing this, man? You're 90-something years old. 90-something years old. He goes, don't let the old man in. He sat there and wrote it right then and there, And the first time, it was on one of his records, but he never sang it. But the last time I heard him sing live was that show they did for him.
When he came out his last specimen, man, I tell you what, I listen to that all the time because it's I'm 81 now, so the challenge is to stay real active, and that's one of the keys to living a full life but you have to stay real active and don't let the old man in. Yeah. There's nothing more true. Fox News and live TVs kill more old people than anybody.
I think so too.
And I enjoy Fox News.
So, Charlie Pride.
Charlie Pride is one of the sweetest men I've ever met in this world. His wife was even sweeter. I was out at the ACM Awards, and we used to go out about 4 days before, and we'd have a jam session. And it didn't matter who you were, you played. If you were a musician, you played. If you're an artist, you went up and sang with whoever you wanted to sing with. Mm-hmm. And so that night we were done. We're back at the hotel, and they had a room for us, everybody upstairs with pianos and had everything in it. So I was up there with Jerry Reed, Charlie Pride, Mac Davis, all these guys in the 70s that I was like, they were my guys, I listened to. And Charlie's singing and Mac's playing and you name it, those guys were up there. I mean, just some of the best singers in the world just having a good time, just playing whatever they want to play at any time, whether it was country, whether it was pop, whether it was jazz, or or Frank Sinatra stuff. They were playing it. And those are the kind of things that I remember most about loving what I do for a living. Being around people that you idolized and know that they're just as normal as you are, and they'll but Charlie was special because Charlie was he was a guy that was played on the radio, and folks didn't know if he was black, didn't know he was black at all. They listened to him on country radio and go see him and go, wait a minute, he's a black guy. They go,
it's a new guy, a young guy. He light skinned. He a black guy, but he country.
Yeah,
sounds pretty doggone good. What his
Yeah.
name is?
Oh, if you wouldn't ask me, I know he's from Chattanooga area.
This kid pretty doggone good, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's awesome. He has
he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a bunch of records out and a bunch of #1 records. I could if you wouldn't ask me, I could have told you. Kane.
That's right.
Kane
that's
Brown.
Right. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That man.
Yeah.
He sound pretty
Yeah,
doggone
he's
good,
good.
man.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Good voice.
There's it's like everything else. It does not really matter about skin color, tone, color. It's quality of voice, what your voice will do. And look, there's a redheaded kid. I don't know if you ever seen him on TikTok. I couldn't tell you. He's from Alabama. He looks like the Revenge of the Nerds movie. The guy with the glasses, red hair, just the ugliest kid on the planet. Well, he opens his mouth, he's nothing but 60s soul.
What do you think separates country music from all other genres? Like you say, it doesn't matter if you're black or you're white, you're handsome, if you're ugly.
I'm going to answer that. It's the working man. It's the working man's music. It's guys that go to work from 9 to 5. Who
It's
work
the
with their
stories.
hands.
It's the stories.
It's the story. It's kind of like, country singing could be like R&B,
Yeah.
blues.
Yeah. It all stemmed out of that.
You're telling a story.
Yeah.
But all music does that. It doesn't matter if it's rap or what. All music tells stories.
But if you can understand the story, that's But here's the thing with country. It's always been about back. When I was a kid, it was George Jones singing about drinking, and losing his wife or getting married for the 55th time or something like that. But nowadays it's changed to a certain extent. It's a little more in depth, but it's going back toward a little bit nice and easier now because it's starting to turn toward that 90s country, which we used to have. Everybody used to love.
It's kind of like pop is just sticking its head in all kind of music. It's like it's taking over.
You can only do so much with pop music. I mean, what else can you do to it?
I think I seen songs with, I think Taylor Swift, and they refer to that as country music. And I'm like, that's not country music,
I'm gonna tell you what. Now, when I was growing up, country music was awful. It was.
Hank Senior and
Hank Senior, but it was. I mean, the songs he sang and stuff were. But when you go on back, I mean, they couldn't sing.
No, they couldn't.
Could not sing at all.
No.
But they lived such a restrictive lifestyle. That's why I say it was the farm workers, people. They didn't have nothing, so they would sing. It didn't matter whether you could sing or not. They'd have an old guitar, but it was awful. But now country music is unbelievable. I mean, everything grows. Since the aliens have gotten here, we've gotten a lot better at everything.
Now I'm gonna make a statement, and I may be crazy for this, but it's a certain country singer that's very, very popular, and I can't tell you one of his songs right now. It's not like I'm going to go and just go buy a country CD, but once you're a musician or artist, you appreciate all genres, and I can understand a very good song when I hear it. Like instantly, I understood that yes.
Thank you.
And I went to searching for something that might have been better because that was the first one I heard. So I didn't want to be biased. I wanted to see if there's something really better than Yes. Yeah. And I'm sorry to tell you, Yes was the best one I heard from you.
That's been the biggest and best record I've ever.
And how many years ago was that?
24.
And see how, for me, listening to a genre that I don't generally listen to, instantly recognize that's a good song.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But this country singer, I don't think he's all of that. Like Blake Shelton.
Love Blake.
I mean, the man, person I see on television on the little show or whatever.
The Voice. Yeah.
But
And what his personality is so big. You'd think, I thought the same thing. I didn't think he was very good when I first started listening to him, but he is. The song he did is God's Country.
Yep.
When you listen to that, everything you own, you don't own anything. That song hits it right on the head because somebody else is going to live in your house. Somebody else is going to be farming your crops that you think are yours. But his personality is so big, and they do so many other things rather than just sing.
it's kind of like in anything, sir.
I used to babysit Blake.
Oh, yeah, really?
Oh, not kidding you. I was the old guy at Warner Brothers. I was the one that would go. I would get the phone call from Jim Ed Norman, the president of Warner Brothers, going, listen, Blake's going to be down here on this thing with you. Make sure he gets on the plane, please. I'm not kidding you. The boy could throw down a few. I had to go knock on his door at 4:30 to get him up for a 6 o'clock flight and going, you're late. Come on.
Explain to us how talented this guy is behind the scenes.
Let me tell you something. He is probably one, with his personality the way it is, what you see is what you get from Blake. It's what he is. He is just on the go, funniest human being. Every time he sees me, he's 6'5". He kisses me on the forehead. Every time he sees me, he don't care. Just kisses me right on the forehead.
He telling you, get on the plane.
Yeah. But he's just one of the nicest people, and the cool thing is he respects the fact he has his tour he does every year. He's doing it again this year, and where he does it with it's like Blake Shelton and Friends, and Friends and Heroes tour. He's took like my buddies from the Bellamy Brothers, who Floridians from down here in San Antonio. Let your love flow. They're the huge hit back in the middle 70s.
They got a farm down here.
In San Antonio. Yeah. And they've been doing it for years and years and sound the same. And they're on tour. Trace Atkins was on tour with him. Friends and Heroes to the guys that he grew up listening to, friends of his from before him and right with him, But he just left Warner Brothers and went with another big company, and they're going to probably blow him up even bigger. Because Warner Brothers will find somebody new, and they'll kick somebody to the side. I don't know about that.
It's kind of like Coach Simmons in the football
Absolutely.
team. Huh?
Hey, you're done over here. We don't like this record. You got to move on.
That's right.
You've had your time.
Do you play any instruments, sir?
I suck at guitar. I play, but I've been beaten up so much. When I used to wrestle for WCW, my hands are so beat up. I don't have the dexterity to chord like I want to, so I just leave it to the pros.
I mean, how you gonna sing country music and not play
Trust me,
guitar?
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
No, I never really have been there's a lot of guys out there just hold a guitar like George Strait. He holds it. He don't play.
Give me that's a name, George Strait. What comes to mind?
Money.
Yeah, and just
money.
Just tradition. He's never changed. He's never wavered. He's never. His songs aren't rocket science. They're vocally they're not rocket science, but they're all just straight ahead country music.
George Strait, he's straight ahead.
He's straight ahead.
Elvis Presley,
man, that dude. To do what he did in a time that he did, and he came up listening. I mean, you've seen the movies, the stories behind. He was influenced by a lot of people from the blues and a lot of people from the 20s and 30s and 40s that play in the blues. And that's where he got his swagger from. Black churches, going listening to the gospel singers and stuff like this. That's where he got it from. I mean, I look at that. He was still to this day. I don't think there's a bigger phenom than Elvis ever. Nobody ever than Elvis Presley.
Maybe one, but outside of that one person,
I
say
about
Elvis,
Michael Jackson.
Probably.
I don't. He paved the way for Michael Jackson.
Well, you always give homage to the man before you.
Yeah.
But them two guys, I always tell them, I heard an old guy say, Jesus Christ, Elvis Presley, and Michael Jackson. No one has gathered more people together at one time than those three people.
Yeah, well, hey, I remember, here's the funny thing. I remember times in my life where things happened. I remember when the shuttle exploded in 1986. I was driving down Silver Springs Boulevard and watched it blow up. I remember the day Elvis Presley died. August 13th, 1977. I was in my backyard over off 41st Avenue, raking the yard. Mama called me in and said Elvis has passed away.
How did you feel?
Sad, because I was a fan of, I'd always been a big fan of just watching how he did things and the way that people reacted to him. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like the old and I kind of explain this of how a dog will look at you and turn its head like in disbelief because they're trying to figure you out.
Really him, yeah.
You know, so that's the way sometimes people look at you. Especially when I started singing at Forest, people kind of looked at you, you know, in disbelief. You know, because it just goes to show you that some people like Elvis he was just special, man.
Certain people upon the earth,
Yeah.
even they wore the stars. You know,
Yeah.
like the stars are still wowed by you,
Yeah.
even though they may be in the same room, same platform, but it's still wow. That's Elvis.
And here's the funny part: people talked about him dying, but not dying, and because of on the gravestone it says Elvis Aaron Presley. And the Aaron was not spelled right. Aaron spelled with double A, and he went by Aaron with one A. So there are little weird things that people try to tell, you know, going like, there's another guy
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my
well,
life.
hey, come on, see, you don't believe, if you talk about conspiracy theories, if you last 3 weeks, they'll probably happen. That's why I've been looking at things lately.
Yeah,
anyway.
Michael Jackson's still alive.
Yeah.
Tupac still alive.
Yeah.
Elvis still alive.
Who knows? I
And
don't know.
the people.
The one I've heard lately is John F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
You know, but he's supposedly still alive. But
So, you know, how would you like to be remembered? Have you ever had a moment where someone looked at you and did the sideways cock up the head?
you know, I hopefully want to be remembered as somebody that was kind. You know, because I've always looked. Even Coach can tell you this. I worked with a lot of the kids my junior and senior year that were in the special needs out there by the. You know, we had a thing with all the special needs kids, so I would go out there, and I had this one kid that was, his brother played linebacker for us my junior year, and he had a little boy in a wheelchair, but I used to go get him every football game, and I'd push him around, he'd tell me exactly what I did wrong. Greg Wallace.
Yeah.
Trip Wallace's little brother. He's a lawyer now, but I just want, you know, always.
Where's he at? You
He's
don't
in
know.
Tallahassee, I believe. He went to Florida State, and I believe he stayed up there. But Greg was always the guy couldn't do it because he's in a wheelchair, but could tell you exactly what tackle you missed and stuff like this.
So
you
Greg
know?
was very smart.
Oh, brilliant!
So he chose Florida State and lived in Tallahassee. That's a smart man.
I don't know about that. No, I'm kidding. No, but I want to be known for being kind to people. You know,
Randy Travis.
love Randy Travis, man. Randy and I, even since he's had his stroke, I met him the first time in 1995. So we were friends for a long time. He was on Warner Brothers the same time I was. Mm-hmm. And a lot of shows with him, a lot of talking to him, and just a wonderful guy, just an amazing talent. Since his stroke, I've been around him a bunch. I got to I introduced him, if that's the right word, into the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame.
Wow, that was an honor. How did you feel to be chosen? To
Well, I was hosting a big festival down in Louisiana outside of Baton Rouge, and they asked me to do it, and I was like, man, I'll be honored because Randy's in a wheelchair, and right now he's non-vocal. He can say a couple things, and he can, if you can say hi, how are you, kind of a deal, but he barely can walk, and his wife she's there for him 24/7. But to do that was an honor because he's been a friend of mine for a long time, and everybody loves Randy. He went through some times though. He went through some crazy times.
Who influenced you the most musically?
Kenny Rogers.
Kenny Rogers.
Oh, Kenny Rogers by far, man. I begged Warner Brothers. See, I know I don't look like a singer like that, or because I've always.
You got a white
Oh,
beard.
excuse me.
I got a white beard.
Okay, with that statement, what does a singer look like?
Yeah, that's it. Now you just hit the nail on the head. I'll give you, for instance, back when I was doing my thing, they were signing guys look like George Strait, skinny Wranglers, and you tall, you thin, you good looking dude, all kind of. That's all they wanted in a cowboy hat. Okay, they all look the same. But nowadays, you got Jelly Roll, you got. Come on. You got other guys that are big old boys. It's about talent now versus what somebody's gonna look like.
And see, that was my thing about Blake, because at first, before I knew the music, I seen him on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, all this reverence. I'm thinking, what is it? What
Oh,
makes
he's
this guy so
talented.
special? You know, I'm wondering, what is it? And then, you know, sometime I seen him perform one time on the show, and I'm like, the contestants sound better than him. You know, just,
Yeah, sure.
you know what I mean? I'm just kind of, you know what I mean? I'm wondering, what is the it factor? And sometimes, do you believe that certain people are chosen?
I do.
You know,
If they don't try, look, Miss Reeves told me a long time ago. She said, "Look, find the kind of job that you would want to do for the rest of your life, but you're so good at it, people pay to do it, but you do it for free." You know, and that's the kind of job I wanted. You know, if I wasn't good enough to play pro football, I wasn't good enough, couldn't do that.
according to Coach Simmons.
According to Coach Simmons,
And a lot of others.
and a lot of others, but music, you know, I never had that thing in my mind that I could not make it in music.
You never had that in your mind.
Nah, I never did.
And what kind of drive, you know what I mean? How long did it take? Because back then it was very hard to break through in the music industry. What was your big break, sir?
My big break was I had a buddy of mine that went to Vanguard named David Mullen. He graduated a year after me, so 82. He was already up there. He was a friend of mine, and he was doing a Christian thing.
Okay, when you say up there, what do you mean?
Nashville.
Okay.
He lived in Nashville. So I've been up and lived with David a couple of times, back and forth, trying to figure out if I wanted to stay. Finally had that talk with Miss Reese. She said, "Get your butt up there and let's go. Let's do the work." So a buddy of mine named Scott Strickland, who owns a company here in Ocala, it's called Healthy You, said, "Do you want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Scott, I don't have the money." He goes, "I do." He gave me 10 grand. We cut my first demo. I walked in Warner Brothers. And I never walked out. But the funny thing was, they didn't know what to do with me. I dropped down to 200 pounds. They still didn't sign me. I got myself back at the 255, but I looked like I could break a wall. Next thing you know, they're calling me going, "We want to do a record with you, but we want you to wrestle for WCW. I went, "You want me to do what?" I don't know how to wrestle, but I learned.
How did you think they formulate that? Why was that a deciding factor? How did that go hand in hand?
I was listening to Faith Hill do her second album. She's working on the vocals on her second album at the Warner Brothers studio. I was just up listening. And I'd just gotten through training, and I was up there I had a tank top on, had a pretty big pump, and I was about 255, 260 at the time. I was pretty stout. And Jim Ed Norman, the head of Warner Brothers, walked in, and he looked at me and goes, "What have you been doing?" I said, "Well, Jim Ed," I said, "You wouldn't sign me at 200 pounds. I said, "So I can't stay there." So I could see the wheels were turning. And that was a Friday afternoon. I got a phone call Monday morning at 10 o'clock going, "Can you come down here?" And I walked in the guy who signed me, Danny Key's office, and he said, "Do you know anybody at WCW?" And I went, "I happen to do." The guy from here in Ocala named Clark. And so I said, "Yeah, well, we want to sign you with a three album deal, but we want you to learn how to wrestle because we think we have a built-in audience here and it could go really big and stuff like this." And I went, "Okay." So I made one phone call to Clark, got the guy's name, Eric Bischoff. He ran WCW, Ted Turner's organization. Mm-hmm. I got him on the phone. That was a Monday. That Wednesday, I was in camp in Atlanta. Now, physical shape, I was strong as an ox. But we're talking about going in the ring against a guy 6'5", 285. That was a real wrestler that wrestled in the Olympics. Threw me around like I was a 2-year-old and made me throw up like 9 times. If I just kept coming back at him, they said, "We'll see you tomorrow." They want to see if I'd quit. Yeah. But this man right here is the reason I didn't quit anything. That's right, Coach Simmons is.
Attica.
You know, well, did it work out as far as the wrestling?
It did. It did. I ended up, I'd go back and forth to Nashville, right? And end up doing a match before a Saturday night match. And the guy missed a move, and I pinned him real quick. And next thing you know, they offered me a 3-year contract. So they were paying me, back then it was $1,000 a week, and didn't care if you won or lost. I didn't care. I was getting paid.
So it wasn't, everybody think, you look at wrestling now, it's kind of like
it's a show.
It's a reality show. Yeah. I always tell my mom's husband, he's a diehard.
Yeah.
And I tell him, man, you might well watch Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner. You know, it's so.
Look, you can't take a 300-pound man, and I've wrestled some of the largest men in the world, literally. Ming and the Barbarian, those guys are over probably 350 apiece, and they fly through the air like a ballerina. And when they land on you, don't even feel them. But then you wrestle a little guy who's got Napoleon syndrome, and he'll knock the crap out of you. So you got to hit him back. Yeah. Just give him a receipt, knock the crap out of him.
Yeah, just imagine some of those wrestlers as football players. Probably make some hell of a football players, huh?
Strongest person in the world, Goldberg. I'm telling you, Goldberg had me against the wall. This is down in Tampa. At this event we're doing in Tampa, had picked me up with one hand. I'm 260 pounds. Had me against the wall like this right here, and it was like I was like, Bill, if you don't let me down, I'm gonna kiss you right in the mouth. He dropped me.
So how much of it is staged?
It's all staged, but when you got people like Goldberg, who can't really hold back that physicality and that strength, that mental. I mean, he's crazy.
That's a big man,
dude. When he speared those guys in the ring, when that was his finishing move, it was like run across and you spear somebody up, in the turnbuckle. Mm-hmm. That was real. You can't hold that back. But when you got somebody like Dusty, who was all nothing but show and grace and just funny, and he hit that atomic elbow. That was just. Fun show, Bob. Yeah, but he was one of the most sweetest guys on the planet. He was great. But then you got people like, Chris Benoit, who killed his whole family because of steroids. You wrestle him, and he gets you in the corner, and he's supposed to chop you one time, and like that popping noise.
Yeah.
And he tears the skin off of you. Mm-hmm. That's when you hit him back.
Yeah.
Those guys like that, they can't stay that big, so they're all roided out. But Hogan was easy. Even the Big Show, 7'1", 450 pounds. I had to slam him a couple times. I used to be 6'4".
You was.
I was till then. I'm kidding.
See,
that's the mental block, bro.
Yeah, this is why y'all think, I thought he was 6'4".
Yeah, it's all goes back to that man with the heart,
And y'all call me a realist.
What about Ric Flair? Was you doing Ric Flair, man?
Yeah.
He was a short guy with it.
He's about my height, but
short guy, no.
Thank you. Yeah, about my height. He might be 6 foot, maybe 5'11".
Really?
Yeah, he's not big at all, but he was showman. I never saw him train with weights, but I always saw him do 2 hours on the treadmill. He was cardio king. And you ever notice his matches? Every match was the exact same thing. Every match, he would get chopped. He would chop. He would go backwards over the turnbuckle. He'd get back in, and he'd walk around a little bit, and then fall on his face. That was Rick. That was his stick. That was Ric Flair.
Well, it was classic. To be the best, you got to beat the best, and that's the bottom line. Woo!
Yeah, it was funny, but this is the funny story about Macho. I love Macho Man. He was one of the nicest human beings.
Yeah, really?
Yes, he was. Man, he was just such a sweetheart of a guy. So we're sitting there at one of the Nashville wrestling things. I wasn't wrestling that. It was in 1995, and I just bought a brand new Z71 pickup truck. So somebody said, Chad, would you mind taking Randy back over to the Renaissance Hotel? I said, sure. I go back and get my truck and pull it in the back, and Randy comes out with his gear and goes, ooh, nice truck. And I'm thinking, get out of character. Just get out of character, dude. Just come on, get out of character. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, that's nice. Little leather. Oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm one of you. He never got out of character. I see Randy down in Tampa when I was doing radio in Tampa. And it was like, hey, Chad, how are you? Yeah. And his veins in his neck would just bulge out and pop out, And finally, one day, they just popped because that's how he died. And his heart burst driving his Jeep, going over the causeway,
You say out of character.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people think what they see is real. Not only in wrestling, but in everyday life, in any type of entertainment.
Yeah.
How important it is for you to turn that switch off when you come home. You Chad, Brock, you this country singer. You come home, you husband, your father.
Yeah.
How important is that, sir?
I had to turn it off because I had to get out of it for a while. It's kind of strange. I look back at being a father I really wanted to be a dad. And I was at that age, 37, and then I was finally, Kennedy was born, my daughter. She was born when I was 38, almost 39. And it was like leaving her, going to do shows was hard. Is daddy really home? Is daddy really home? So I was looking for something else to do in radio. I love doing radio. Love doing television stuff and radio. And if I can get into that, I could be home every day and so on and so forth. So then all of a sudden, my son is born. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't do this. I can't be gone 120 days a year and not watch my children grow. So I got into radio, came here to Ocala first, and then got a big offer in Tampa. Went there for 5 years and then got out. But I did not tour it again until my daughter just graduated in nursing school. She's a nurse at St. Vincent's Hospital in Birmingham, and my son is in the Navy. And so now Daddy can go back out and do what he wants to do.
So how many years you actually done radio and everything?
I did radio. I did television for about 4 years. I did radio for 7. Did big morning show radio
I
stuff.
told you I was bringing in a big timer.
Yeah, we got a real big time here. That's right. I mean, so, out of the wrestling, the music, the radio, what are you more passionate about, sir? And why? Oh, and the football.
Well, you know what? It's like I can only dream about football now.
Would you trade the country career, the radio, the wrestling, for 3 seasons in the NFL?
No, I would not. No. Because I got hurt really bad in WCW. I have 2 artificial hips because of WCW right now. That's kind of a hard question. If you think about 3 years of that versus the music, you can only play football for so long, and or however long your body lets you. Most of us on a Brady can play 20 years or.
There's always a 20-year-old guy coming and take your job.
That's right. There always is.
For a lot less money to start with.
But with music, I can do it for the rest of my life and not have to say I'm retiring.
Do you think that you're a better singer today than you were 20 years ago?
Probably so, because I feel it a lot deeper now. I mean, when you do it so much, it becomes like second nature. Your trills, the way you sing a song, the way you do this, the way you do that, it becomes second nature to you. When you're out of it and you get back in it, sometimes it's kind of difficult and you forget words. But nowadays, it's like I feel more at home entertaining people. It's what I do, and I'd rather do that than anything in the world. It's like I'm boring other than that, I think.
You started out in the choir as far as high school. Mm-hmm. You think you would ever record a gospel album? I've already
this new record right now has about it's very God centered. There's a lot of writers in Nashville that write the way I like to write, about life and about general things in life that and it's very manly, very masculine, because so many times we've been taking men out of everything that's going on in the world now. What's the word I'm looking for? Demasculate or whatever. Emasculate. It's unbelievable. So I'm trying to put that back in a little bit and talk to the guys about doing what they're supposed to, about being dads, about being this, about being that, showing up and doing the things that a father needs to do.
And it just shows the maturity of yourself, sir, as you transform to the caterpillar that Coach Simmons first met into this butterfly. You metamorph into the man that you are today. And that's what we want to show your audience and your fan base, that, where you're at, you don't have to remain.
Oh, no.
And as you evolve, and as your fans follow you, your music will change as you change.
If you stop evolving, you die. That's the way I've looked at it. I mean, everybody can change. Everybody can do different things, and it took a long time for me to stop and realize, because, I've been lucky with what I've been doing. To be honest, I've made a great living doing just about anything I've ever done.
So what's the chances that me and you can get a collab going on?
Well, if you want to do something, let's do it.
All right,
we can write something.
I might be able to come out of retirement on that. But it's all about the heart, sir.
It is, I think so.
And I perceive you to be a good man. I just met you. I perceive you to be a good man, and how important is communication in any relationship?
Well, that is the one thing I had to learn. I hadn't been very good. I've been very good at being Chad Brock, selfish guy. I was very good at that for a very long time because I've always done what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. But I had to stop and realize one day that that wasn't the way it's supposed to be. You know, when I started putting others first, you know, and serving others, you know, whether it be something small, didn't really matter. You know, buying somebody something that at the store that they can't, you know, afford or whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But doing any kind of service work like that with somebody, you know, with a kid or anything like that, to me is what I find better now than anything in the world.
Why do you think that was so hard for you to grasp?
Because when you're selfish, all you think about is me, me, me. And so many people live in that generation of, you know, if I can just go from this to that, and this to that, and this to that. If I want to go buy a new gun, I'll buy a new gun. If I want to buy a new vehicle, buy a new vehicle. And I just had to go, whoa, that's just too much. You know, because it hurt my relationships, you know, in my, you know, when I was married and stuff like this, you know, I did not put them first. It's like, you know, the family's supposed to be God family, you know, and it's like that. And, you know, you don't put your spouse anywhere close. You just me, 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 me. And so I messed up a bunch. But
you have siblings?
I do have a sister. Yeah, she's older. So
you're the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So spoiled Chad, huh?
Well, was I spoiled, Coach?
No,
I don't think I was spoiled. No, I was put in the right direction. I had a very stern father. My father was very stern. My mother was really stern too. But it was discipline. It was get the grades, do this, or you can't do this, or you know.
How important is it to have the father in the home?
Extremely. Okay, I go back to the '60s. Okay, when all this to me started, when they started, everything started happening where the father didn't mean much anymore in the world's eyes. Nowadays, I look at that and go, wow, that is what has ruined, I think, a lot of what's going on in this world today. When a man is in the family, it tends to be a little bit easier on everybody. Because I have all respect in the world for women who raise children by themselves. Mm-hmm. They do the very best they can. But I don't have respect for a man who will walk away from his family just to, whether he thinks the grass is always greener on the other side. When he take that side over there, you're going to lose a lot more than what you ever thought about losing. And you know, I've got a lot of friends that they're, you know, I'm lucky. My children are, and I was divorced, but we never put our children in the middle. We always got along. My kids. I looked at my ex-wife Natalie the night my daughter graduated, and I kissed her on the forehead and said, "We did it." She says, "We did it."
How important is that? You know, a lot of times, the way the parents feel about each other, you know, whoever have the upper hand when it comes to the child, they shun the other parent. You know, sometimes they speak ill of that parent in front of the child.
I think it's wrong. I think it doesn't hurt anybody but the child. Mm-hmm. And I've seen too many. I've got a lot of friends. I mean, when you date at this age, at 60 and 61 and stuff like this, when you're going out with somebody new or something like this, you're not just dating them. You're dating their kids and what's going on in their life, because you got to. And it's different, you know, because you know how your children are. I know I've had really good luck. I don't know how I had such good luck with mine.
Probably
the
mothers, huh?
Well, probably the mom. I mean, that girl never made a B in her life, and she goes on her. This is how crazy she is. On her days, she's a nurse, and on her days off, she goes to hospice and visits her old patients at hospice on her days.
Wow.
She's a good kid, and my boy
and that's
loves
a testament to you as a father and to her mom as a mother.
mama, you know, because
Coach Simmons says it best. You know, most of it's done at conception.
Yeah.
You know, it's the DNA. It's the core of who they are.
Well, you know, I go back and I think about Coach Simmons in the way that it's a discipline. It's like when I talk about when I went through boot camp, I giggled because it was a joke, because I had went through 30 times more when we were playing football and during the summers and getting ready to go play and what we had to do, and we had schedules. We had to do this by this, and it was, so when I got over there, it was like, oh, come on.
But you got to understand, most of the people that go into service have never done anything in their life. That's why they think it's so extremely hard. And the physical condition thing, if you haven't been exposed to it, it's unbelievable. Plus, I don't know how much mental pressure they put on them now, but they used to put a lot of mental pressure on them.
It was like when the company commanders were in your face. I'm thinking, I'm stoic. I'm very stoic, but I'm thinking to myself, Coach Simmons gave me harder than this stuff right here. I'm going, come on now.
And he think he's doing something.
You think he's doing something.
Yeah.
One of the things, I'm going to say something because y'all need to understand something. Most of the time when you were getting criticized or straightened out, everybody didn't on the team. There were guys that didn't do things right that you had to explain it multiple times to. And there were guys you never had to raise your voice to because they understood you the first time.
Yeah.
And we get confused whether the person that's presenting it the second time to them and stuff is a big butthead or, if I would have listened and got it right. A lot of the criticism when I was a coach is, he's a giant pompous ass. He just wants it done this way, and he's this overbearing. So that's exactly right. That's exactly what I wanted. That's what we were working
Absolutely,
for.
yeah.
And you can't get people sometimes to do things without accelerating the energy that you put into it.
Correct.
And some people, they only respond to you.
Yeah.
Some people, depending on their lifestyle, their households, that's the only thing they respond to.
Yeah.
It's like a parent may say to a child, Johnny, please put that up. Please put the toy up. It's time to go to bed now. And the child will keep there playing until you yell at them. Then they stop and they do what you say. And that's
the hardest job in the world is to be a parent. I've never been one, but I've had a bunch of them come to tell me about it.
We're watching what's going on now in the world is the way that everything is just upheaval. Everybody's against each other, and you just never know. And it's like, I look at men, and there's a huge men's movement now. There really is. It's a humongous movement to get men back doing what they're supposed to do, and I see it every day, and it makes me happy.
One of the biggest problems we have today is what all three of us have is right here.
Yeah,
you can go in any gym. You can see when I pass the kids waiting for the bus, they're not talking to one another and having a good time. They're all sitting there in their own little world texting somebody down there because they've lost the ability. My grandkids are the perfect example of that. They live the older ones. I mean, the younger ones now, they live through their phones. I make them put their phones down when they come in.
Absolutely.
That's true. Mr. Brock, we're going to play a game called Fill in the Blank.
Okay.
I'll ask you random questions. You ask them quickly, precisely, honestly. First thing come to mind.
All right.
There's no right or wrong.
Okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
I've always wanted to.
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
It's fill in the blank.
I was much quicker on the test.
Yes, you let Coach Simmons beat you out on this one.
I don't have an answer.
Oh, jeez.
I don't.
I tell you what.
I rest my case.
Yeah. Hold on. No, because
all right.
Let's try another one, but except for that one because it's like.
I'll come back to that.
All right.
This is geared for your audience to learn who you is, Mr.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
I love when someone
sings my song back to me.
I've always wanted to.
I've always wanted to play in front of 1 million people.
If I had to do it all over again, I would.
I would have done the same dadgum thing I did.
My favorite holiday is
Thanksgiving.
It aggravates me when people
are ugly to other people.
The best quality someone could have is
kindness.
My childhood crush was
Connie Williams.
If I was God, the first thing I would change is
God is. You can't change God. That changed nothing.
If I could travel anywhere in the world, it would be.
I've been to so many places. Alaska. I haven't been to Alaska yet. That's the only place I haven't been.
The best coach I've ever played for is
Jim Simmons. Sitting right next to me.
If I could have dinner with anyone in the world, it would be
Jesus.
If I could go back to any age, it would be.
I wouldn't want to go back. Wouldn't go back at all. I like this has been all the stuff of growth that we've seen, that you and I have seen. Although you're 10 years younger than I am, all the stuff we've witnessed from roller phones to push button phones. And now we're on these things and to watching whatever you want to watch.
My greatest strength is.
Wow, my greatest strength, I think, being a father.
I am most proud of.
My children.
Jesus is.
Everything.
When I first meet someone, the first thing I notice is.
How they look at me in the eye.
If I can ask God one question, it would be.
When you finally coming back.
My greatest weakness is.
My children.
The biggest misconception about me.
That I didn't play. No, I'm kidding. I was going to say that I didn't play pro football. I'm kidding about that. My biggest misconception about me is that, wow, I don't know. I'm a knucklehead. I don't
He's
know what.
bald-headed.
I'm bald-headed. I'm very self-deprecating is what I am. You know, I mean, it's like.
What I mean by misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Like someone, they always think that I'm arrogant, but I'm not.
No, I hope nobody would think that. It's just like.
But what is it that people always, I always get that people perceive I'm this way, but I'm really not.
When you've been in this business, it's hard because people don't approach you in the way that you know what I mean? They don't approach you like they would approach
Average person.
And it's like that's what I think that's it. People always approach you in a different manner. I wish they would just approach me normal because that's what I am. I didn't do this till later.
Right.
I was already me and very approachable, and I like everybody.
I draw a line in the sand if you
mess with my family or you hurt somebody that's weak.
If I had to star in a movie beside any actor, it would be
Denzel Washington.
My top 3 country singers of all time.
Ooh, Kenny Rogers, Merle Haggard, and Steve Wariner, who is unbelievably good.
My childhood nickname is
Cowhead. Thank you, Coach.
My favorite cartoon growing up as a little boy.
Oh, wow. Wile E. Coyote.
Coyote. He had some great plans, man. They used to do that man wrong, didn't they? Great day. Emmett Smith or Barry Sanders?
Emmett Smith. I watched him play in high school.
Steve Spurrier or Bobby Bowden?
Steve Spurrier.
Jim Simmons or Phil Yancey?
Jim Simmons. I didn't have Phil Yancey. I had Jim Simmons.
Randy Travis or Hank Williams?
Randy Travis.
Tracy Lawrence or Vince Gill?
That's hard to say because they're both two different dudes and both good friends of mine. Vince Gill.
B.B. King or James Brown?
I got to know James before he passed. I didn't never get to know James Brown.
Elvis Presley or Michael Jackson?
Elvis Presley.
Prince or Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson.
Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles?
Both. Man, Ray Charles probably. Ray.
Peyton Manning or Tom Brady?
Brady.
John Elway, Dan Marino?
Dan Marino.
Mike Singletary, Brian Urlacher?
I like Mike Singletary. I know both of them now. Brian's a better friend of mine than Mike. I like Mike because he was 5'10", 5'11", and he was a ball player.
You can relate.
Yeah.
Plus he had a ball head.
Yeah, he had a
Got the ball
bad
head.
boy. There's a picture I just saw. Scott Brantley. Mike Singletary's in the back, and Sweetness is shaking his hand.
Yeah.
Peyton. Walter Payton is shaking Scott's hand. It's an incredible picture.
Walter Payton or Eric Dickerson?
Walter Payton.
Tony Dorsett or LaDainian Tomlinson?
Tony Dorsett. I liked his stride.
Terrell Owens or Randy Moss?
Randy Moss.
Charles Daniel or Charlie Pride?
Oh, Charlie Daniels. You
Charlie
know why?
Daniels.
Charlie was one of my best buddies. I mean, absolutely. I met Charlie unassuming. 1994, I'm recording my first thing, and I walk in there. And we're at this place at Al Capone. It's called the Castle. It was his hideout, coolest studio on the planet. I walked in there, and I'm recording, and I'm just not feeling it with my producer. I didn't like him. The first guy they stuck me with, he just didn't have a personality at all. So I walked in, and in the kitchen, there's this unassuming man sitting there with a ball cap, polyester pants on, a T-shirt, and tennis shoes. And I said, "May I sit down?" You know, I got a Coke or something. I sat down. We started talking. Lo and behold, it was Charlie Daniels.
You didn't even know who
I didn't know. I didn't recognize him because every time I seen Charlie's in boots and a big old cowboy hat and the whole 9 yards, had glasses on, Coke bottle glasses.
Chad knows more stars and famous people than I know him, just regular people.
But he said, "You got to find," and I talked to him about the producer thing. He goes, "You got to find somebody you can really get along with and enjoy." So I found Nora Wilson and Buddy Cannon, and we laughed. Oh my God, we laughed.
I was most starstruck when I first met
Garth Brooks. Yeah. When I turned around, there was Garth.
If I was a single man and I could have any woman in the industry,
In the industry,
it would be
I know most of them don't want to do with them. Now, I don't know about, I'd want to be with anybody in the industry.
Carrie Underwood.
No.
Do you know her? Do you
I know her.
Hey,
Yeah.
Is she not?
She's beautiful. But,
No, I'm talking about as a person.
oh, yeah, she's as sweet as can be.
Well, what's wrong with her?
She's too young.
Son, they're just talking imaginary. Okay?
what's the word he used earlier? Hopeful thinking, wishing or something.
yeah. No, really, because I know most of them, and there's just none really because I look at things differently now.
You think it's better to have someone in the industry? Why do you think so many failed relationships happen within the industry?
Egos. I mean, you got people like, she was married to Blake for a long time, Miranda Lambert.
Yeah.
Oof. Something else right there. Those two, it's like oil and water. Miranda's probably the oil. He's the water. So that was doomed from the beginning, but...
Well, she's got 5 dogs and loves to drink bourbon.
I know. But he likes to drink bourbon too, and that might have been the problem right there. No, but I just would rather have somebody out of the business, you know, that
You think it's important when you're in the industry to keep your family life private?
I do, because they're going to try to find out what they can find out on you, you know, anytime.
I was most aggravated by paparazzi. In what situation?
Well, I really didn't, because when I take my hat off and I dress down, I look like a normal some gun. I don't look like anybody special.
Straight cowhead.
Straight cowhead. You know, I look like the guy who walks off the job site, you know, builds houses.
You look like a greeter at Walmart.
Thank you very much,
Now,
Coach.
Coach Simmons,
Yes.
how did he get the name Cowhead? Why
Look at his head.
Why Cowhead?
He looks like he's got a cow head.
You know what?
Hey, listen, when I give him nicknames, it comes just like that.
It just go.
It just comes.
Okay, Mr. Brock. When Coach Simmons wasn't around, what was his nickname?
Sir.
You think he might even hear it in his sleep?
I know. I'm like,
Hey, let me tell you a quick fun. One night, my phone rings. This for cell phones. I answered the phone. They said, "Is this Coach Simmons?" And I said, "Yeah." And there's a kid on me. He says, "You can just take and kiss my so and so like that." And I started laughing. And he said, "I told y'all I'd tell him." And then he hung up.
Yeah.
I was laughing.
You
so
won his
hard.
money that day, huh? I tell you what, Mr. Brock,
Chad, please.
Chad.
Thank you.
Yeah, this person. See, when you're on personal levels, it's Chad.
Yes.
So if you see this man anywhere,
Just Chad.
you can walk up to him and call him Chad.
Yeah. Just don't call me Harold. That's my dad's thing. Everybody calls me Harold now.
You think you look like your dad?
I do. Yeah. Every year that I get, only thing is, it's like my father passed away in 2020. And it's like the older I get, the more I look exactly like my father. Even down to my hands and my feet, everything just remind me of my dad.
What's the most important lesson? What have you taken, carried the most that you learned from your dad, sir?
My father was one of the most unique people. He, he worked for the railroad for 38 years. He was just there. Everything that I did. I mean, if he could get off to watch practice, he'd be over there at practice, but every baseball game, every football game, everything that I ever did sports wise, he was there. And he was also a disciplinarian, but he was kinder than Mom when it came to discipline, But I just just to tell your children one thing, and a lot of dads don't do it, and that's that I love you every time you talk to them. Mm-hmm. He did that with me every day, and he wasn't afraid to show affection to me. He wasn't afraid to hug me. He wasn't afraid to, things of this. But he was a stern guy. But I always knew if I had an issue,
you can go to Dad.
I can go to Dad. And I just wrote a song. It's been because he had a stroke on my 56th birthday. He died on my 57th birthday. Mm. So I couldn't wait to get out of my 50s. I was ready because they're just awful.
Does that make your birthdays hard for you?
Well, when I look at the headstone, it says July 31st, 2020. Yeah, it kind of makes it difficult. But but he was such a good dude. And Mom, Mom was a very smart woman. The Stafford side of my family, my mother's side, all brilliant women. Doctorals and 2 masters and all these kind of stuff like this. So they were very, very smart women. But it's like with the Brock side, my little old 5-foot grandmother, cookie cat head biscuits, and that countryside. Oh, I'm talking gold.
What you put, honey or syrup on them?
I'll put sorghum syrup on there. Yeah. And I couldn't wait to get home to her house. She'd cut them up and she'd lay them out and she'd broil them, put butter all over them, pour some sorghum syrup. It's like I lap it up like good stuff. That's why I wore those. But Sears and Roebuck had jeans back then called Huskies.
How important is it to hear that I love you?
I think it's the most important thing you can say to somebody.
Have you told anyone you love them today?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I talked to my son this morning. I talk every day, and my daughter every day. I FaceTime my daughter.
What about you, Coach Simmons? You told anyone you love them today?
I want to compare something because I think is real interesting. And I know Chad's family real well and stuff. When I grew up, my mother and I played football and all this, but nobody ever said you loved you in home. They all worked. My mother worked 12 hours a day in a package store, and my dad worked on a dairy. He had to get up twice. They never saw me talk about going to practice and games. They got to see one game. Spring game my dad got to see. He didn't understand it. And my mother got to see one football game in the entire career of things. It was just an entire different world. Does saying I love you and having the things which Chad said would be great, but you have to learn growing up and you have to observe things that are good and things that are bad, and understand every day you're going to make a decision in what you do. I didn't always do the right thing. I've been to jail as a teenager for being a punk, but my parents worked every day of their life to get me off the dairy farm into a place where I could go to Terry Parker, where I'd have a better life. So I had everything. My dad was a violent drunk, would wreck the house and beat my mother. I had to overcome these things. And finally, I could put a stop to him beating on my mother. But, I knew they loved me because they went to work every day and they wanted me. They didn't understand anything about my schooling and stuff like that. I was a poor student. But you have to make a decision every day, and you have to take advantage of every opportunity. Chad's done the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. You have to go out there the other day and figure it out. No one's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And to my audience, like I say, this is TLC, Talk, Love, Communication. And we're sitting here with 3 generations. Coach Simmons, 81. Chad is
61.
Is 61, and I'm 50. And, and we need to continue this progression of telling each other we love them, because it's so important. You know, in the older days, you only do what you're taught. And like Coach Simmons said, he was not told. They showed you, I love you. I go to work every day. I put food on the table. I provide a living for you. That was their way of expressing their love to you. And even for myself, you know, now that Coach Simmons 81, like you say, you live and you learn. I get off the phone with this man. I tell this man, I love you. He say, I love you too, son.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's growth. You know, that's abnormality. That's something that he wasn't raised with, but he recognized that, hey, there's a better way. And that's what we all can do, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to continue to show love and express love. And with that being said, Mr. Chad Brock, this is called AMA, where you, Mr. Chad Brock, get to ask me, William Robinson, anything.
I want to know, you said you served a little bit of time, and I want to know what you learned in while you were in there and how it changed you as a person. That's one of the things I wanted to know.
What I've learned to communicate. I learned that I guess I did have an anger problem. I didn't recognize it. I heard you say earlier that I asked you what you didn't like or whatever, and you said you don't like bullies. You don't like people
bullies,
that pick
no.
on people. And I was the person, I didn't like bullies. You know, I look back over my life, I was really violent. You know, really your thought pattern.
Yeah.
You know, you in the music, and you know, you grew up a decade before me, but you know, I was in rap music and all of this Too Short and Ice Cube and all this music influenced me a lot. You know, I used to, you know, fight dogs and just everything was just violent. Right. And it came a day where I looked in the mirror and I said, well, Lord, why am I like this? You know, how did I get like this? You know what I'm saying? And that's the hardest thing for people to do, is to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And face themselves. I mean, really look in the mirror. And when I looked in the mirror, I didn't like what I saw. You know what I mean? I'm very strong-minded, very determined.
Right.
And if you didn't show me I was wrong, I was right. You know, and it wasn't until I read the gospel for the first time on my own that my life changed. Yeah. It didn't take me but one time to read it. Not what grandmother say, not what granddaddy say, not what the preacher. When I read it for the first time, it changed my life. Yeah.
Well, you know, God looks at every one of us in a different way, because there's people like David in the Old Testament who was ruthless. He was like he had
everything under the sun,
but still was a man after God's own heart. You know, and you know, but I think David understood that he was doing things wrong, and sometimes we get to that point in life where we know we're doing something wrong, and we shouldn't do it. And you know, and we kind of ready to go, Lord, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do it. But you do it anyway. But he still works on you. He still works on you. Finally gets you.
You know, I make the statement. People think I didn't know when I cheated on my first wife that I was going against God.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was wrong. All I knew is, she's going to get mad if she find out. My biggest fear was losing my child. Yeah. Not any other consequences. Yeah. And it wasn't until I read the Bible that said, now I understood what adultery was. Yeah. And things of that nature. So I'm the type of person where I can learn from your story. Yeah. But if I never hear your story, I can't learn anything.
See, I've got a platform now, you know, and for so long I had a platform for a very long time. Didn't use it, and now, you know, I'm going to use this platform that I've got, you know, to get out there, because I've already been, you know, the stuff I'm doing is it's very God-centered stuff. It's not contemporary Christian by any means, but it's still real country. But now I get a chance to do what I want to do for the very first time. Mm-hmm. The kind of career I've always wanted to have. You know, whether it's and I have a heart for men. I have a heart for talking to men and really trying to focus on, guys, let's step up. You know, families and stuff like this. You got to step up.
One of the things I plan on doing, sir, is having guys from the prison to call me, and I record the phone call, and I play it back to my audience. Right. My thing is to stop the youth from. They don't have to go do 18 years like I did. No. You know, and stop the blaming others. the court system didn't have to do me the way they did.
No.
We know there's some injustices that goes
Absolutely,
on down
there
there.
are. Yeah.
But I understand that I placed myself in their hands. They may have been wrong, but at the same time, I allowed them to do me wrong.
Right.
So, it comes down to accountability is my word of the year, sir.
Yeah.
You have to be accountable for your own. I'm not upset with no one.
Yeah.
I'm not angry. I don't blame anyone.
Well, so many come out that are.
Yeah.
And then they reoffend, they go right back in.
And see, you have to, your change start within.
It does.
I've always been a straight up person. I am what I am. You know what I mean? And I don't pretend for no man because I'm a man amongst men.
Right.
So I didn't have a problem with, I was different because once the Lord, I became a child of God, I lived a different life.
Right.
And when you were amongst those type of spirits, those type of people, it can be hard. That's a hard. Jesus' road is a hard road.
Yeah.
But I believe that spirit see spirit.
Yeah.
And like I say, I want to be able to receive phone calls from the prisoners, and so they can minister to these kids. Let these kids know that, hey.
I'm going to tell you a story about an old man. He was 105. He's still living. They wouldn't let him in beginning of World War II because he had part of his tongue was not developed and he had a speech impediment, which was kind of crazy to me why they wouldn't let somebody fight. They finally let him in. So he fought in D-Day. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge, Normandy, D-Day, Battle of the Bulge. He got through all that kind of stuff. He ended up with, I think 7 Purple Hearts and a Silver Star out of World War II. They called him back into World War, in the Korean War, and they gave him a commission. He got captured twice. They tried to hang him the second time. He escaped the first time. They got him the second time, took his belt off, and they left him for dead. His belt broke. So he got out of there, and and it goes back to the guys that wrote some of my stuff on my record. He writes with vets. He goes into a situation where it didn't matter if they're World War II or Korea or they're Vietnam or Afghanistan or wherever. He writes with vets, and he gets great ideas. And he sat there with Tommy. The guy's name's Tommy, and he has 9 Purple Hearts now. Silver Star. The only thing he does not have is the Congressional Medal of Honor. And his whole story is a movie. And they wrote a song. He asked Tommy what was the reason that he felt like he lived so long. He said that mean old devil don't want me. And he was talking about John 15:13, which I believe, if I'm paraphrasing, talks about no greater honor than to give one's life for another, to lay down one's life for another. And he lived by that his whole life. He was a pastor, but he didn't pastor in churches. He pastored in prisons his whole life.
Sure.
But they wrote that song, "The Devil Don't Want Me," and it's too intricate. The song is too well written for me to put on a radio. People would want more from it. Right. Because they'd want like a movie around it. I'm thinking we need to do either a documentary or a movie around the song, because it's the whole thing is it's unbelievable. The story behind the whole thing is unbelievable. But those are the kind of songs that to me are what country music's all about, and real, and the stories behind it. And when you were talking, and both of you guys talked about something a second ago that it reminded me of, I just am cutting a new song called "So You Don't Have to." Now, we all become parents, and we try to make the best for our children so they don't have to. Mm-hmm. Whether it's getting those monsters out on the bed, you know what I'm talking about. Just little things so you don't have to do the same things that I did, where they get up at 4:30 in the morning and go to work and do all this kind of stuff so you don't have to.
I like that.
One of the better songs I've ever heard in my life. The guy sends it to me. I'm going, what in the world? Why is this not cut by somebody? Goes back to those greedy people. It's all greed in Nashville now. They want a part of everything, so they don't cut these great songs. I'm about, let's cut great music. I don't care.
I want to encourage you. Me sitting here listening to you, sir, you shouldn't have to have another person write another song for you.
Oh, I got a few.
Because your life, your story, you would never sing a song as great as the song that's in your heart.
Oh, that's true.
Your father.
Yeah.
just the small information you've given me about the way your father fathered you and how you carried that on to your kids is a song within itself.
Oh, it is.
And that needs to be sung and needs to be heard.
I just wrote it. It's called "Who Do I Talk to Now," or "Who Can I Talk to Now?" And it goes through chronically about how I, who can I talk, Daddy? Who can I talk to now? And it even goes back to the time I ran that car off in the field in the corn, and I had to call my dad to come get me out. It's all in that song. And he goes, I would call Dad about everything, but it's kind of like you figure out who you can talk to now. You can talk to God instead, And Daddy, I finally figured out who I can talk to now.
The Father.
The Father.
From Daddy to the Father. Let me ask you something. When you was growing up and you don't did something and Mom gonna get you, Mom gonna tear that rope up, could you call Dad?
I wasn't scared of Dad. I was scared of Mom. Dad would give me a stern talk and I'd go, okay, all right, but I was more scared of my mom getting that switch. She'd go, get your switch, and you bring back the smallest one, then she'd go get a tree branch.
Okay, any more AMA, sir? Any more questions for me?
I was going to ask you one more thing. I want to ask you, have you ever thought about going into, would they let you or allow you to go in and talk to these as in a group setting?
I believe, I would definitely be willing to. Next month on the 7th, I will be out of prison for 3 years. And I know after 3 years, everything kind of opens back up.
Yeah.
So I would love to be a part of that because that's where my heart at. A lot of times when my wife, I allow them to call me. And sometimes when I hang up, I just sit there. And she say, baby, why you always look like that when you talk to one of them?
Because
And people just, no one, to be separated from family, from the ones you love, man. And like coming home from prison, one of the first things I want to know, you think back over your life, you really look at your life. And I want to know, is this old man alive right here?
Yeah.
When as soon as I reached out to people and I seen someone that might know, I said, man, is Coach Simmons still alive? And I think it was Marvin Newman's. And they had just honored you or something in the paper or something. They were like, yeah, man, I think Coach Simmons is alive. Like the legend's still here.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think Marvin gave me your phone number. And it felt good, when you think back, just life, man.
Well, he influenced. I'm talking with you. You're right here next to me, but I'm talking about how many young men and women too, you've influenced over the years. I mean, there's generations that you've influenced, whether you liked it or not. Just being who you are.
But that was the 5 years I was single.
This is what I've had to deal with my whole entire life.
Well, it's true.
I know.
It's definitely one of a kind.
I know.
But I love it. I love it that I'm sitting here with Jim Simmons. This Jim Simmons.
Too.
This is the man. This is the legend. This is, I got a friend that want to meet him so bad. He went to Vanguard and I always talked about him, and things of that nature. And he'd be like, when I was going to interview him, he was like, man, I'm going to try to get up there. He want to meet him,
Yeah.
I want to say something before I want to ask both of y'all this question because this same friend of mine is my best friend in the whole world. And he played linebacker. What do you think about a linebacker? At the snap of the ball, he had his hands on his knees.
Brantley used to do that too.
That was old school. I tell you what, to me, you losing a step.
Well, he didn't lose anything.
He was just quick already. You know what I mean? But,
Look.
Well, that's his personal. You can. It's a 2-point stance where you put your hands. You're reading. The first thing they're doing is reading. They go through their reads. I don't think it makes a difference.
Let me tell you, I saw Brantley. I want you to look this up. Scott Brantley, Eric Hipple, quarterback for the Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm.
He took a read. Scott, they must have played in the Buck Stadium or something. And Hipple rolled out. Scott read it so perfectly. And what I saw was just pure. He didn't take the fake. It was pure acceleration. When he saw he was running, Scott hit him. It was a perfect tackle. It was not a cheap tackle. Hit him with his shoulder, knocked his helmet off way up there, and it just looked like it just blew through him. Worst hit on the quarterback I've ever seen in my life, and it was a legal hit. And he leaned up, and he just had to lean back down. Hipple did. So I was at a charity event, and I walked up to Hipple one day, and I said, how you feeling? He goes, what do you mean, man? I said, well, listen, I saw that Brantley hit on you. And he goes, shut up.
He remembered too.
He remembered it. Yeah, he did.
He remembered too. So I tell you what, this is called Final Thoughts.
Final thoughts.
What you're going to do, you're going to look directly into that camera over there, and you're going to give your final thoughts to the world. What do you want the world to know about Mr. Chad Brock? You want to inspire any type of country singers, young up and coming?
You know what? I want to inspire people. I know there's a humongous wall that's built up right now between some people and other people. Doesn't matter. Left, right, left, good, evil. You know, there's a big wall. And I ask people to do one thing: look for the window in the wall. Look for the window in the wall. Think about that. Oh, I need to get a round of applause.
Yay!
Plus, that's my first single off the new record.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, William Robinson, here at TLC Talk, Love, and Communication, ladies and gentlemen. We had a special conversation with Mr. Chad Brock and Coach Jim Simmons. Ladies and gentlemen, these young men was very wise and very some inputs and very influential things. You know, we learned a lot about a lot of famous people today, ladies and gentlemen, coming from an honest man. You know what I mean? We heard it right here at TLC Talk, Love, and Communication, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, we only got one life to live, and it's a whole lot easier with love and communication, ladies and gentlemen. You can donate to this podcast, your Cash App, anybody love you with a U, PayPal, Robinson74William@gmail.com, Zelle 352-209-3306. And remember, if nobody told you they love you today, William Robinson loves you.